So you mentioned a little while ago about how some relationship problems tend to be a I guess consequence, not sure what language to use, of trauma, of childhood trauma, of having traumatic events, right? A lot of people struggle in intimate relationships. Any
Mhm.
suggestions there? Any tips, tools, insights that you could share there for people who might be struggling with that based on past trauma?
And that's that meaning making piece that I was talking about earlier. So right hemisphere really, at a simplistic level, is involved with sight, sound, smell, sensations of touch, emotional memory. Left hemisphere really loves to form meaning out of stuff, to put it in order and give sequence and logic. When there's no sequence and logic, such as in the case of trauma, because it just doesn't make sense, right? It's not sequential. It's overwhelming. Something like that can help us start to unpack our experiences so that we can form meaning and reflect. And also, when we have that higher order part of the brain online and involved in forming meaning, then we can look at, well, now I understand where this comes from. Is it still serving me, right? Is this still what I need or want to be doing? Or how would I like it to be different? And we can start to build other templates.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting, right? Yeah, that meaning making machine, because when you first started talking about it, I was thinking about all the, let's just call it quote unquote, negative meanings that a human mind can make out of obviously traumatic experiences. And it sounds like what you're saying is like, we can also make positive meaning out of, right, something that we learned from maybe a bad experience or something, or at least that's what keeps coming up for me, is just kind of like reframing something because it helped us, become, a more strong person, or I don't know. Could you share anything around that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the meaning making is so critical. And for us, it often is looking at that peak period of threat activation again, whatever that may have been. But quite often the message is, I'm going to die, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's, interpersonal violence or harm that's happening, or a car accident or a near drowning or whatever it is, quite often there is that perceived or actual threat of safety, right? So if that's the message that's looping and the amygdala is on high alert because it's scanning for threat and thinking that at any time you're going to die. I've worked with people in their 70s processing something that happened in their like when they were 4 or 5 years old. And, we look at what scared them most at the time. Well, I thought I was going to die. And I can't tell you how many people I've said, did you die? And it's like their eyes get big and there's this awareness and they're like, no. And for the first time in like 68 years, they're realizing that they didn't die all those years ago and that they're okay. So then the meaning making becomes, we do what's called creating a new message to your amygdala. So, I'll say, okay, so knowing what you know now, like what message do you need to send your amygdala, or that security guard part of your brain? If it's attachment focused, we may be changing the message. If it's loss focused, it may be different as well. So we really tailor that message to whatever that person needs to be focusing on. And again, it's not devaluing what did happen. We always want to validate that. But we have to be so mindful of the messages we're sending ourselves, because if I'm focusing on, I can't do this anymore, and that's all I'm telling myself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except maybe an hour in therapy, that's what's being reinforced over and over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the current events, Joe Dispenza just did a great talk on COVID, right? And I know that when we are focused on fear, threat, and this is cell biology research as well, I think Bruce Lipton's work, fear causes our cells to shut down and die off. Love, joy, gratitude causes our cells to grow and multiply. So, in these times that are uncertain and scary and overwhelming, we don't, again, want to devalue that. But if that's what we focus on and that's what we live in, and our brain, the amygdala, is going to that worst case scenario that, maybe I'm going to get this and I'm going to die, and that's what my brain is looping in, you're setting into place the neurochemistry, the physiology, that accompanies that, the emotions that accompany that. And although you may not actually get that, you can bring your body to a state where your immune system is suppressed and where you feel worse and where emotionally you feel worse. So if we instead intentionally redirect our attention to things that we're grateful for, right? Validating, yeah, this is scary, this is uncertain, but this is what I'm going to focus on, right? I'm going to be present in, things that I'm grateful for, or I'm going to be present in things that I enjoy. I'm going to be present in nature. Even if you're not comfortable going outside, taking nature in, we can shift that affective state and boost our immune system.
Thank you for touching on that. That's so important right now,
Mm-hmm.
as we all sit in this very interesting scenario in our society. So I appreciate you touching on that, because I know a lot of people are definitely experiencing a lot of fear and uncertainty. So yeah. Any last insights? Anything else that you want to talk about before we wrap up?
I think I'm just grateful to be here. I think it's wonderful that you're doing this. The more that I teach people about trauma and the more I interact with people, as human beings, trauma is part of what we experience in life. Some of us have resources and supports to help us navigate it, and so we come through things differently, and some of us don't, and that really does make a difference. And I really would love people to know that healing is possible regardless of your circumstances and background. And as human beings, we have tremendous, tremendous capacity to heal and grow and redefine ourselves. So it's I hope it's very hopeful.
Beautiful. Redefine ourselves. I love that. Thank you, Lori. I really appreciate you and your work and saying yes to doing this with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andy. I look forward to seeing the series online and sharing it with others.
Absolutely. And everyone who's watching or listening right now, thank you so much. We wouldn't obviously be doing this without you, without our amazing audience tuning in and being willing to show up for yourself and love yourself and being willing to heal and go on this journey together. So thank you so much. And we'll see you again real soon. Take care.